Your heart is the support system for every organ in your body. The brain can't function without the heart pumping. The liver can't quiver when the heart has no rhythm. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your heart. Matters of the Heart podcast is a safe space for you to face the true matters of your heart. The issues that causes stress, even when you're seemingly at rest. Issues like hurt, pain, betrayal, and shame are things that are buried alive in the back of the brain. I call them undiagnosed heart traumas. Others refer to them as heartbreak, when in fact it's heartache because the heart can't break. I know, sounds pretty interesting to hear, but you'll learn more as you enter in and allow the healing to begin. I'm Natasha Mayo, the execution strategist. Welcome to Matters of the Heart.
Good afternoon. I am so stoked to be here with you guys again today for another broadcast of Matters of the Heart podcast. Please take a moment to share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Natasha M Enterprises. As you guys know, I'm not certain how long we will broadcast here live on Facebook. And so I want to make sure that you guys stay connected to the greaterness. And so I'm Natasha Mayo. I don't ever want to take for granted that you know who I am. And so I'll introduce myself to you. I'm Natasha Mayo, the execution strategist. Execution in all things, mind, body, soul, and spirit. I believe that you can go to new dimensions and new levels in every single area of your life. Why? Because you can. God created us to be prosperous in all things. He said, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in great health. Oftentimes, people choose. They hang out with or when God is an and God, prosperity and good health. And so I believe that every area of your life can go to new dimensions because one, he said so. The disconnection is our efforts, our obedience to participate in the process. And so say hello, let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. As you know, this is a conversation. We are here to talk to you and with you, not at you. And so I like to know who I'm talking to, who I'm engaging with, who I am breaking through with, right? And so let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. Today, we are talking about implementation. Experiencing or decoding the difference between obligation versus preparation. And I'm taking my time because I am very passionate about execution. And oftentimes I could get a little fast in my speech. And so I'm taking time to make sure that you get all that you need in this episode, because implementation is very important. And to be able to dissect and decode, if you will, the difference that implementation has, if it's an obligation versus preparation, is huge. And so let me know who you are. I see you tuning in. Hi, Tanya. Thanks so much, Tanya, from DC. I, too, am from DC born. And so thanks, Tanya. Thanks so much for tuning in. And so let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from so that I can engage you. And so those of you that have been following us, you know that we have been on what I call the anatomy of faith. We have been breaking down the psyche of the soul, if you will. We started with your will is in the way. Then we went on to dissecting your intellect. And then the last broadcast was, is your perspective healthy? And so in each one of those broadcasts, we helped you identify where you fell in each one. If you haven't had the opportunity to view those, I invite you to go back later and to view those broadcasts to make sure that you dissect your intellect, that you get your will out of the way, and that you make sure your perspective is healthy. Now we are going to bring all three of those together and help you get to your next dimension in all of them by preparing. Preparing is so liberating. It's so free. It is the thing that makes you want to go to new dimensions versus obligation. You see, when you're obligated to do things, you'll either procrastinate or not do anything at all because it feels like a chore. How many of you guys have things that you know you need to do now, but you've been sitting on it for time and time and time again? That's because you see it as an obligation versus preparation. You see, for me, when things come into my life, I see them as opportunity and not opposition. I see them as a way to go to the next dimension in my life. And so, therefore, I approach them different. When you see things as preparation, it's easier for you to lend yourself to it. If you will, let me know if there's anything in your life right now that you have been procrastinating on, that you've just been sitting on, and put a one in the chat to let me know, yep, I've been sitting on something that I know I need to do. It's not, oh, I think I can do it, or, oh, I think I should do it, but you know that it is something that you need to do to help get you to your next dimension. Put a one in the chat to let me know that I am talking to you. And as you share your truth, I am going to help you break through to not only share it, but then to enter in what's waiting for you. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that. I'm going to help you break through to what's waiting for you on the other side. And so I want you to begin to see that thing that you're procrastinating on as preparation. You see, when I begin to shift my mindset and my heart set, oftentimes we believe that everything is a mindset. And I've said that over and over and over again for years. And that is true, but it's not the complete truth. It is also a heart set. What are you not setting your heart to do that is confusing and complicating your mindset to? And so it's a heart set. And so I had to shift my heart set as I began to prepare to leave corporate America. In 2016, God had given me an exit strategy, and He told me that there were things I needed to do to get to my next dimension. I didn't fully understand what the next dimension was, but I knew that I was in preparation. And so I saw the things in my position in corporate America as an opportunity to prepare me for where I was going. In fact, the Bible says it like this. He said that if you're faithful over another man's vision, then He'll give you and bless your own. And so when I would have these uncomfortable situations or these times where I just didn't want to do it or was frustrated and irritated, I would remember that this is preparation and seed sowing into my very own. And so when you begin to see it as preparation, you open up space and clear the clutter that's clogging up the opportunity for you to go and to grow. So take obligation out of it. Take looking at it as you have to versus you want to. That very simple principle will begin to strengthen you from within. I want to do X. And so therefore you will versus I have to do X and therefore you don't. You got it? I want to versus I have to. People spend decades going off to a job because they have to. They live their life very unfulfilled because they have to. When all of the time that they have to go off to work, if they saw it as I want to because this is preparing me for XYZ, then their process would be completely different. So shift from having to want to, and then your preparedness will begin to show up for you. Where are you in your preparedness for your next dimension? Are you hanging out with yesterday, or are you propelling to new days? I'm going to say that again. Are you hanging out with yesterday, or are you propelling to new days? Here's how you prepare to new days. See yourself in it. Literally simulate yourself in the thing and or the person that you want to be. You see, oftentimes it's not always about something else or something exterior, but it's something interior. It's something that you see in yourself that you know needs to grow and develop. And so begin to see yourself in that thing. When I was preparing to leave corporate America, two things I did. One, I knew that I would never go back. And so how do you prepare to never go back to something that provided a sense of security for you? You begin to prepare yourself in the things that you are uncomfortable in doing. You begin to prepare yourself in the things that you have somebody currently doing for you. One of the things that I missed tremendously when I left corporate America was my assistant, because she kept my schedule. I didn't have to, but I knew that I initially coming out would not have that luxury of an assistant starting out. And so therefore, I began to keep myself better, my time, my schedule, my availability, my appointments, first of all, with myself, making sure that I was keeping myself a priority. And so I began to keep myself in those areas before even exiting. I began to simulate that principle over and over and over again before I fully entered in, right? The next thing I began to do is that I began to see myself where I knew I wanted to be. Seeing myself where I knew I wanted to be. And so, guys, remember, this is a conversation, not a monologue where I'm just talking to you or I'm talking at you. It's a conversation. And so help me help you. Where are you in the area of implementation? Are you hanging out with obligation? Are you doing it grudgingly? Is it something that you do to satisfy a means? Is it something that you have to do because it's a contingency upon what you are currently doing? Where are you in obligation versus preparation? What things are you still feel tethered to? That's one of the things that I love. And I often tell people, I own my time. I get to do what I want to because I prepared for it. Now, prepared in the sense of ED, but I am also preparing ING because it's continual. What you sow in one season, you will reap in another season. And so your preparedness in this season is so necessary for where you're going, not where you've been. Otherwise, you'll live another season of recycling because you haven't implemented anything different. I'm going to say that again. You'll live another season in recycling because you haven't prepared to do anything different. You have gotten you as far as you can go. You do all the things, you have all the checklists, but something just is not working. The something is the new thing that you refuse to do. The something is the new thing that you refuse to discipline. Now, when I say new thing, it doesn't have to necessarily be a new thing completely, but it's a new thing in the sense of you doing it consistently. It's not a part of your day-to-day operations. It's not a part of your day-to-day regimen. And so that new thing has to be strengthened and developed consistently over and over and over again. So, what is the thing that you are still tethered to? What is the thing that you're still obligated to? You've heard the cliche, I owe, so off to work I go. What is it that you owe and you still have to go? Not necessarily to work, but you still have to go to that place of comfort, to that place of inconsistency in order to maintain that thing. What is that place of obligation for you? You see, preparation provides manifestation. For many of you, you know, I have a 28-year-old, and for those that you don't, I'm getting ready to tell you, I have a 28-year-old with special needs. And so years ago, I asked God, what am I not doing? Just open-ended, not necessarily related to anything in particular, but we all have many things that we are doing, right? And so you'll hear people say, hey, what are you up to these days? What's going on? And so I said, God, I want to know, what am I not doing? I have a ton of things that I'm doing, but what am I not doing? And God responded and said, you stop believing me for miracles. And so again, I saw that as opportunity, not opposition. I saw that as an area that needed to be strengthened. While it wasn't a new thing, it was certainly a thing that I had placed on the shelf and did not even realize it. You see, when you ask a question requires an answer. But the problem is that we are not asking the proper questions. And so therefore, in not asking the proper questions, we don't get any answers. And so implementation requires questioning. And so when God said, you stop believing me for miracles, I began to cultivate my participation in the process of miracles. You see, nothing from nothing leaves absolutely nothing. Just like we're sitting here having this conversation, and if you don't talk back to me, you may walk away, you will walk away with a ton of information, but not have the specific tools you need to execute. And so nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And so, thank you, Tanya. And so, as I began to participate in my own process consistently, year after year after year after year, we are now beginning to see the fruit of our obedience. The things that we did years ago that seemingly seem like nothing was happening in the natural is now manifesting in the natural. The thing is, it was happening all along. And so we had to stay steady in our confession and profession of faith, our belief. And so we continue to till the soil. We continue to take him to the gym. We continue to take him on his bike rides. We continue to speak life into him. We continue to speak life into ourselves. And as a result of doing those things consistently, the preparation is now leading into manifestation. And so Tanya says, my new thing is prioritizing myself. I still fall into the trap of being pulled into into others' priorities under the guise of helping. Yes, 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 Tanya. Listen, that is so prevalent, more than you know. A lot of people fall under people pleasing, and oftentimes people don't want to ever see themselves as people pleasing. But when you sacrifice yourself to please others, that's exactly what it is. And so you have to call a thing a thing. And in calling a thing, setting up the necessary supports to get out of that thing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with supporting others, but it's something very wrong with doing it at the sacrifice of you. And so the reason why it's so easy to do, Tanya, is because you haven't prioritized you. Now, oftentimes people say that so loosely, but they never give you the how to of prioritizing you, or the how to get out of the thing that is haunting you. I am the how to queen. I am the how to expert. I was getting ready to say queen and expert together, because I think it's an abomination and an abortion to give people instruction and not tell them how to get out of it. And so I give the how to's to get on the opposite side of your breakthrough. Make yourself a priority on all schedules. What does that mean, Tasha? Put yourself at the top of your hierarchy for yourself, right? Put yourself in places where you usually don't. Because if you don't put yourself on your schedule, everyone else will. That's the first principle. It's not a tool, it's a principles. Principles work anytime, anywhere for those that will work them. That's the first principle. That's the first how to. The next thing is, do not, under any circumstances, cancel an appointment with you. You wouldn't cancel an appointment with your supervisor. You wouldn't cancel an appointment with your pastor. You wouldn't cancel an appointment with anybody that's of influence for you. So why would you cancel an appointment with you? Don't. Those are two principles that I want you to start doing consistently. And so Summer says, I missed Summer, put her back up there. Oh, it looks like she was repeating what I says. Don't cancel an appointment with you. Absolutely. And then she says, put yourself on your schedule. Yes, you have to put yourself on your schedule. Otherwise, people will fill your schedule with themselves. Yes, Tanya, take notes. And for everybody else that's here and those that come back in the replay, take notes, because you hear things different each time that you hear it, right? Revelation comes by preparation. Revelation comes through stimulation. Revelation comes through consistent actions towards the known goal. So take notes. Yes, Summer says, I never recognized that. I know it seems very simple, but because we begin to make covenants with simple, we miss it. I'm going to say that again. That's so good. And I've never said that. We begin to make covenants with simple, with the day-to-day operations in our lives, with the casual, seemingly casual things that we do, that we miss them. And so while it's simple, people don't do them. And so I like to call it going back to the basics. What happens is that God has made us brilliant. And so the very things that has created and developed our skill set in our brilliance, we become comfortable with. Like, people will look at us and say, oh, you're amazing. I don't know how you do it. And for us, it's first nature. Some people call it second. I call it first. Because what happened to first? How do you jump straight to second? What happened to first? And so it becomes first nature to us, and we become familiar with it. Don't become familiar with your brilliance. I'm going to say that one more again. Don't become familiar with your brilliance. You see, familiar will have you in the space of obligation, because you feel like you have to, because you have it. And you don't ever have to. You can want to, going back to what Tanya shared about helping and supporting people, because why? You can. And so you feel this sense of obligation to do because you can. And so you don't ever want to do because you can. You want to do because you want to. You see, the exchange is completely different when you want to versus you have to. And then have to comes in when you've committed yourself and didn't want to in the first place. But when you commit yourself because you want to, the exchange is ease. It's not frustration. It's not grudgingly. It's not a task. It doesn't feel like a chore. And so flip obligation to preparation. The next time you are presented with an opportunity, ask yourself, am I interested because of obligation or an opportunity? Am I doing this because I want to or because I can? Two completely different segments. Yes, Summer, don't become familiar with your brilliance. You also have to make sure that you're strengthening your brilliance at the next dimension consistently. But if you get comfortable with your brilliance, you will think that there is nothing to strengthen. You will think that I've arrived, that's enough, and you put it on the shelf. When God says that we go from glory to grace to grace. But oftentimes we get to glory and stop. Oftentimes we get to grace and stop. But he said from glory to grace to grace in every area of our lives. You have to know, guys, that where you are is simply the beginning of where you are growing. Oftentimes people get stuck in grow versus growing. We are always consistently evolving to who God has created us to be. There's a maturation stage, and you'll get to a place in life where you'll look around and you are the smartest person in the room. Now it's time for you to execute to new. I'm going to say that again. You will get to a place in your life where you are the smartest person in the room. That is a notification that you must execute to new. Otherwise, you will recycle what you've known, and what you've known will never, ever help you grow. What you know will never help you grow. Implementation, guys. We talked about dissecting our intellect. That's getting out of the familiar of what we know and propelling to the unknown. Tanya says, yes, I tend to step in if I know I have the skill set and can get it done. I don't always ask if I want to do it since I know I can do it. That part, Tanya, that part. It's a no-brainer for you. You just step right in. And here is the danger in that. When you just step right in, two things happen. One, you enable people. You don't give them the opportunity to grow. You don't give them the opportunity to stretch. You don't give them the opportunity to stimulate their greatness. And then two, they will automatically default to you. And so what once started off as a help, it'll become a hindrance. I'm going to say that again. What once started off as a help will become a hindrance. And so you have to back off and allow people, one, to at least stimulate their thought process, to at least get the conversation going, to at least see if they could do it themselves, and finally, ask you for assistance if they need it. And so we have to take ourselves out of the equation. I remember when my son was transitioning from private school to public school, and the transition came by way of me realizing that he needed a reality check. How many of us need a reality check? Put a 1, Put a two. We've already used one. Put a two in the comment section. We all need a reality check. And first, and in fact, I now call it soul check. I wrote a book about it. We all need a soul check in our lives consistently. And so I realized by the conversation and the language that my son was using that he had no sense of the outside world. And that if I did not make this shift at this point in time in his life, he would go on to college clueless. And so I didn't want that for him. And I didn't want to get in the way of that development. And so I had to allow him to get in a different environment so that he could be stimulated and make necessary intentional decisions on his own without being encapsulated in a private school zone. You see? And so you got to allow people to grow up within themselves and in the position that they're in. Because if you don't, you will create, you will enable, and you will create dependency within them. We don't want anybody dependent on us. We are there to support, just support, not do the work for them. So obligation versus preparation is completely different. You enter in different when you are preparing. You enter in knowing that I am helping somebody go to their next dimension in life. And so Tina Hunter says, great day. Love what you're doing. We'll come back for the replay. Awesome. Yes, come back for the replay, Tina, and share. And so obligation versus preparation will have you enter in completely different. And I see new people coming in. Say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I appreciate your presence. Let me know that you appreciate mine by saying hello. And so we're talking about implementation for the next dimension, not operating in obligation, but now pivoting into preparation, knowing that our daily decisions are dependent on our destination, where we're going, not where we've been. And so what we do today prepares us for tomorrow. And so we see it completely different. We do completely different when it's preparation versus obligation. I have a 30-day detox. I call it the jump start because it is not the end all be all. It is the very thing that will jumpstart you on your healthy way of living. I stopped saying lifestyle because Holy Spirit checked me on that months ago. He said it's not a style. Styles are trends. Styles change. This is your life. And so the 30-day detox jumpstart is a jumpstart to healthy living. And people are so enamored and willing to do it because it prepares you. They don't feel obligated to participate and operate in the principles that come with it because they see it as preparation and not obligation. And so they enter in wide open. And as a result of them being open, the clarity of their understanding is clear. And then the results that they were once seeking that they forgot about produces itself over and over and over again. And so it's principle, guys. It's not obligation. And so we have to get out of the I owe, so off to work I go. That even falls in line with relationships. Let's talk about that because this principle transcends over multiple markets. You become loyal because you look at loyalty as you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And then it turns into obligation. Well, because they do this for me, I must do this for them. Houseway. Houseway. And so loyalty has even been perverted in that sense, because again, you should do because you want to, not because you have to. How many of you guys have been so disappointed in relationships because people didn't treat you the way you felt like you treated them? I remember God telling me, he said, you are looking for your harvest to come from where you've sown when they don't even have the capacity to give you the harvest that's attached to your obedience of sowing that seed. I'm going to say that again. God told me, he said, you are looking for your harvest to come from where you've sown when they don't have the capacity to give you the harvest that is coming because of your obedience. That will make you prepare versus being obligated. You sow, you reap. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come from where you've sown. So stop looking for it to come from where you've sown and look to the one who told you to sow. Preparation, obedience, participating in the process, seeing it for what it is and executing for that alone. I'm going to say it again. Repetition is revelation. Seeing it for what it is and participating for obedience alone. Preparation, not obligation. Implementation is everything. And so once you are aware of where you are aware of the things you need to do, you've had aha moments, like Tanya shared about supporting others at the sacrifice of herself, like Summer shared that she didn't even see it that way. And others of you have had aha moments today and in other broadcasts. It's now time that you implement those things consistently over and over and over again. Now, with a different heart set and mindset as it relates to intentionality, how you are entering in. I am entering in with the heart set and the mindset of preparation. Where are we growing from here? You see, you have everything to gain and absolutely nothing to lose. So where are we growing from here, God? I know that I am preparing for something new. Order my steps, and I will follow you. Period. No more and no less. But you have to do it over and over and over again. Implementation requires premier accountability. Implementation requires premier consistency. You see, it's not enough to gather information. Like, it's not enough to keep coming to these live broadcasts, podcasts, and to break through in one particular area, but then you walk away and you don't walk through. It's not enough just to gather information. You have to implement consistently. In 2009, many of you know, and those that don't, I lost over 100 pounds. No shots, no shakes, no surgery. From implementation consistently. It took me about 14 months to lose that weight from being accountable, from consistently implementing, from pivoting. Because here's the thing, you'll get revelation in one area, but then you'll get stagnation if you continue to operate in the same revelation. I'm going to say that one more time. As you implement, you will get revelation. What is revelation? It's clarity of vision about the thing. right? Break it down nice and clear. So you'll get revelation, clarity of vision about that thing as you implement. But as you continue to implement, if you don't pivot in the implementation, if you don't shift, if you don't take things to the next dimension in that revelation, you'll plateau and begin to recycle in what you know. And so you have to be constantly evolving and elevating your implementation and your revelation simultaneously. They must happen together in tandem. Otherwise, you'll be upside down. You'll be lopsided. You'll be in the or zone instead of the and zone where God has called you to. And so you have to consistently implement. You have to consistently develop your revelation. You have to consistently pivot as you progress. Those things require accountability. Who's holding you accountable on this new implementation? Is it just you? And if it's just you, that's okay. But my question to you is, how is that working for you? Are you up one week and then down the next? Are you seeing continual, measurable progress? That's a question, guys. Talk back to me. And if you're not seeing continual, measurable progress, you need help to hold you accountable. You need a coach to hold you accountable. You need somebody that sees outside, far beyond where you are, to help you to where you want to be and further. You need someone that has already taken that road that you know you need to go, to not only help you get there faster, to not only help you go further, but to also make sure that you don't delay your course any longer. Implementation requires premier accountability. Implementation requires community of like-minded individuals going in the same direction that you are. Remember when I said earlier, you will get to a place in your life where you are the smartest person in the room. It is now time to take the invitation to go higher in the development of your mind, in the development of your soul, in the development of your spirit. And the way that you do that is to get in community of people that are doing the same thing. Otherwise, you'll settle for second. Otherwise, you'll settle for being the enabler. Otherwise, you'll settle for always being the one that everybody goes to, but you have no one to go to. And so you have to come from among, like God told Abraham, come from among your people. You are the smartest person in your group. Come from among. Go for what you know. I like to say grow. Don't just go, but grow for what you know. Elevate your soul by committing to prepare for your next dimension, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Preparation is everything, not just for today, but for the days to come. None of us knew that in 2020, the world will be put in a complete timeout, that we would experience things that we had never experienced before. Although we did not know, some of us was prepared and others weren't. Now, what do you mean by prepared, Tasha? I mean, it was well in your soul. I mean, you didn't miss a beat. And when I talk about missing a beat, I'm not just talking about financially. I'm talking about you didn't fear, you didn't flinch, You did not move because you were prepared. Everybody wasn't. And so the pandemic in and of itself taught us to prepare, taught us to be ready, taught us not to be getting ready, but to be ready. Yes, Summer, check your community often. It is so important. I do an introspect of myself and those that are around me at least quarterly. Sometimes I do it a little bit more than that, but at the very least quarterly, I'm checking myself to make sure that my soul is in alignment. Hear this, for where I'm going, not where I've been. You see, your soul can be in divine alignment for where you've been. Your soul can be in divine alignment for where you currently are. But is my soul in divine alignment for where I'm going? I remember in 2016, God told me, you need to forgive them completely. And because I was in a place of preparation, I said, yes, sir. Because I knew that he wasn't telling me to forgive them completely for where I was. He was telling me to forgive them completely for where I was growing. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know what all that entailed, but what I did know is that it was attached to not only my destiny, but my kids' destiny. And those that are around me and that are attached to me, for those that are waiting for my yes at the next dimension. And so I obeyed and began to forgive completely. Although I didn't even know you could forgive incompletely. But there's stages to forgiveness, and we'll talk about that another time in another place. But there are stages to forgiveness. And I learned that in 2016 when God told me it's time to forgive them completely. And as a result of the Forgiving Completely Matters of the Heart podcast was finally birthed. He had long ago gave me the vision, but he never gave me permission to birth it. You see, some of you guys are jumping ahead of God because God has shown you where you're growing, but he never gave you permission to pull the trigger. He never gave you permission to take off. And because he showed you a glimpse of the vision, you ran with it. And now you're ahead and you're having sorrow and wondering why. Because you fully know that when God bless you, he adds no sorrow. And so you're saying things like, God, you said. And God is saying, yes, I did, but I didn't tell you now. I didn't tell you now. And so back up, because there are some things in your life, in your soul, that needs to become whole before you enter into this new dimension. Your heart set needs to be right. Your soul set needs to be right before I give you permission to enter in. You see, we want these grand blessings. We want this grand platform. We want these grand opportunities, but your obedience isn't in alignment with the grand you want. And God is saying, let's heal that so we can launch that. Because there are some people that are going to come into your life and that's going to trigger some things that you need to heal now. And if you don't heal now, you'll mess them up later. And God can't afford that. God cannot afford you messing his people up. Oh, yeah, he's called you to the assignment, but you got work to do. And so in order to get that work out of you, you need premier accountability. You need premier coaching. You need premier community that are working together with the same intentions to go to the next dimension. Because movement, manifestation is contagious. When you see other people going and growing to their next dimension, you should not, all caps, you should not compete with them. You should compliment them and say, I'm going to. Thank you for being the trailblazer for me to go. Thank you for being the trailblazer for me to grow. You see, you can't see growth when you're hanging out where you're the smartest person in the room. You can't see growth when you're hanging out with yesterday's brilliance. There's nothing challenging you with yesterday's brilliance. And so you gotta go to the next dimension in order for you to grow. Get inside of a community that's growing to where you want to go. Get inside a community that has a coach that has gone where you want to go and that will help you get to that next dimension. Get inside of a community where not only the coach will hold you accountable, but also the cohort will hold you accountable. You see, like attract like. I attract high achieving professionals that are ready to go to their next dimension: mind, body, soul, spirit, and business. And business being career, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a C-suite executive. Who you are personally, mind, heart, soul, spirit, is who you are professionally. And so I attract high achieving professionals that are ready to go from good to great, that are ready to make their great greater, that has taken themselves as far as they can go, but they know deep inside there's more. You got to get in the atmosphere. You got to get in the space of those that are going where you want to go, not where you've been. Now, here's the thing. Where you've been now requires you to be a teacher. Maya Angelou says it's best: when you've learned, teach, not when you've learned, settle. Come on. There's more. When you learn, teach. And so there are people that need what you have now mastered. Come on, God. I'm going to say that again. There are people that need what you have mastered. And so you got to go to your next dimension of mastery so that as you pour out to them, you won't be empty. One more again. You have to go to your next dimension so that when you teach, when you pour out to those that need you, you won't be empty. So as you give, you also must receive consistently. I am always pouring out and I'm always being poured in consistently, over and over and over again. I set myself. The Bible talks about set and position. Some of y'all are just setting. Stop. You're not positioning, you're just setting. And you're saying, good, God, I'm good with this. And God is saying, I've called you greater. God has said, I gave you dominion over the earth, and you are hanging out in a city. We got to go in order to grow, guys. We got to go in order to grow consistently. Years ago, I used to call it storming the gates. Now I call it giraffe view because giraffes eat from the top of the trees. Their vision is so expansive that they see completely different. Everybody needs a giraffe in their life. Every coach needs a coach that sees at a completely different dimension. And I'm starting out with your heart set. I'm starting out with your mindset. I'm starting out with your soul set. Because when your heart, mind, and soul is in alignment, you will grow in them other areas, sweatless, no stress, no strain, no struggle. Leanne says, can you explain the difference between set and position. Yes, I love, love, love that question. Great question. Set means you've done all the work, right? It means that you've prepared to go to your next dimension. So you've gone and you've got the degrees. You've gone and you've got the certifications. You've come on here and you've gotten your aha moments. You've gotten your breakthroughs. You're set. Now you have to take what you know and explore. You have to position yourself in different environments. You got to position yourself to be seen. Exposure is everything. Otherwise, your setting, your preparation will be paralyzed because you didn't move beyond it. That's so good, Leanne. I love that question. I'm gonna have to extract that and use that in another in a master class that I'm doing. That's the difference between set and position. And I love how God didn't say or. He said, and you got to do both. If you listen to God, if you become one with God, if you embrace your relationship with God, you'll see that he used and over and over and over again. He said that I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health. It's a plus. It's not a minus. And so it's and with God, set and position. Do all the things, get the education, get the knowledge, gain wisdom. But don't hoard all of that information by not positioning yourself. Set and position yourself. I love that. Great, great, great question. And so we're now entering into questions and answers. So that's a segue. And so if you have any questions, if you have any ahas that you like to share, if you have anything that you need clarity in, here is your time to share. Here's your time to share. And so while you do that, I want to give you an invitation to your next. You're already amazing. I told you guys that I attract high achieving professionals that are sound in their faith, but they know there's more. And so they're open to grow. We go from glory to glory. We go from grace to grace. Even in myself, I am always seeking more. First of all, in my soul, right? My soul is whole. My soul is wealthy because I am always seeking the unknown in God. Even now, when people say, Tasha, what's next? The unknown in God. God, I want to know you more at the next dimension. I want new revelations. I told you guys about that earlier. I want new revelations. And so I'm always after more, and so should you. And so I want to give you an invitation to join me and other like-minded, high-achieving professionals to come and take your great to greater, to take your good to great. And my conversion, personal development, my mastermind. It is like nothing you've ever experienced. It is multi-dimensional. You come and get your soul whole and your life, your business, your relationship, all under one umbrella. Because I believe who you are personally is who you are professionally. Now, there is an application process because I believe everybody has their person that they should be in rhythm with. You should never connect with somebody that doesn't have your rhythm, right? They can have all the things, they can have all of what you think you need, but if they don't have your rhythm, you should not connect with them. And so there is an application process to join conversion because I want to first make sure that you're a good fit for me and that I'm a good fit for you. And so I like to get to know who I am potentially working with before I say, yes, this is a complete go. And then if it's not a go, I'll oftentimes refer you to someone that I think is a greater fit for you, because for me, it's whole life prosperity for you. I want your soul whole, whether it's through me, what God has given me to help you, or through somebody else. It's your soul, the wholeness of your soul that I'm after. And so I invite you to join us in Conversion Mastermind, to take your implementation to the next dimension in every area of your life, mind, body, soul, spirit, and business, because you can. To stop recycling what you've known and grow to the unknown in every area of your life, to get beyond yourself and the beliefs that you've learned, yourself and the beliefs that has been cultivated in the waiting of your development, through your childhood, through your parenting, through your parents' parenting. There are some things that we've got to leave behind. There are some things that our parents did that they had to do that no longer works for you and I. And so the way to do that is to get in the space to agitate our greatness. I am an agitator of greatness. I see you at your finish. And so I do all that needs to be done to help you get to your next dimension. It is all faith-based. It is all Holy Spirit-led. It is very practical principles, but it's things that you haven't even considered. You've heard people say, I didn't even think about it that way. And so there'll be multiple things that you didn't think about that way. And then when you begin to think and stimulate your brain to see things different, your clarity of vision becomes expansive. And not only will we be clear, but we'll also be implementing real time, consistently, that premier accountability over and over and over again. And so there's a link at the top of this broadcast, and then there's a link also in the comments. I invite you to apply, to join us, to see where you are and where you can grow to be, to get you beyond that place of stuck and stimulate you to your next dimension in every area of your life. And so Leanne says, I can confirm. Transformational for sure. Yes. And so those of you that may not know Leanne has completely transformed her entire life from the inside out. Literally, people look at her and they see her physical transformation, but I assure you that it's not just the physical, but rather the internal work that she's done through personal development. And again, she was already great when she came in. She just knew. In fact, her words were, there was something burning on the inside of me. I just didn't know what it was and how to tap into it. Not only has she tapped into it, but she has now taken the torch in helping others. I told you guys that before. There is somebody else waiting on your mastery. But as you master, you also need to continue to master. As you pour, you also need to be poured into consistently, over and over and over again. And so any questions, any comments, any ahas? You guys have been hanging out with us. I can't see who you are, but I see the numbers are there on the screen. And so while I wait for you, because sometimes there could be a delay, while I wait for you to share your ahas, if there's any questions, I want to say I applaud your efforts. You didn't come this far just to come this far. You didn't make it through a pandemic to settle for seconds. Like literally, if you would just look at that, there are so many people that didn't make it, or there are people that wasn't sure if they were going to make it and that made promises to themselves that if they got out on the other side, they would do X, Y, Z. Perhaps one of you may be those people. Are you doing what you promised? Are you prioritizing what you said? You didn't come this far to come this far. We're not here just by happenstance. We didn't just experience all that we've experienced for naught. And so Leanne says, my aha is the set in position. Reminds me of faith without works is dead. Reminder to not hoard my transformation, but continue in the work. Yes and amen. Continue in the work. And I like how you extracted that faith without works is dead, Leanne, because oftentimes people, and I was talking with my producer about this early in the week, people confuse faith and works to be one. It's not. It's not. Again, God says faith without works. So that tells you they're separate. But oftentimes, because of revelation, lack of revelation, and religion, and relying on somebody else's interpretation, you leave the conversation unclear. And that's why I have a time and a segment for questions and answers, because I don't ever want anyone to leave my presence unclear. I give practical principles that you can use in real time. And so I want you to begin to operate in the principles that you receive while we are in the session. So if you're unclear, ask. That's why I give that opportunity. Because so many people walk away unclear, and so they hoard information or they settle for somebody else's thinking. When you know that doesn't really register in your soul, you have no peace about it. Or you walk around wandering. I remember when I was growing in my faith, walking around wandering, right? I was doing the faith part, but I didn't understand the works part. And I would say, God, I did X, Y, Z. I did A, B, C. Why has nothing manifested? And so as I begin to develop and cultivate my relationship with God, my revelation was also cultivated and developed. And then the clarity of vision was open. So I was able to hear and receive different from my mentors, from my coaches, from my pastors. Because once you clear the clutter, the understanding of your eyes, your ear gate, your heart gate opens up to a completely different dimension. And so that's why it's important that you don't get comfortable with your brilliance. It's important that you don't get comfortable with what you think you know, because what you know will come back around again and you'll have a completely different revelation that'll take you to a brand new dimension. I hear stratosphere. So as I was saying, knowing what I was getting ready to say, what was in queue, I kept hearing Holy Spirit say stratosphere, stratosphere, stratosphere. And so as you open your heart set and your mindset to new, your revelations will come like skyrocketing through, like literally. And so Summer says, and I know your name not Summer, but I just love Summer for you. I really do. And so it says, I know it's Angie. It says, my aha is never noticed that I never put myself on my schedule. Yes, that is so important. And while it seems simple, right? You can look at that and say, why don't I know that? And I have clients that say, I should know that. The fact of the matter is you didn't. And so we're not going to hang out with what you should have known, right? Because what seems so simple, we become comfortable with, and it's not simple because it's who we are, right? Like I used to have a young lady on my team, and she used to always say, Coach, you have to break it down so that people can understand, because it was so simple and ease to me that I just thought everybody understood it the same way. And so that's what happens. You become familiar with your brilliance. You become familiar with yourself, and you will do things not prioritize yourself. Right now we have this, we have this thing about self-care, and I think it's great, right? You should care for yourself. But I'm more interested in soul care. How is your soul? Like I ask people that. People think I'm weird, or they be like, girl, here you go. I ask them, how is your soul today? I want to make sure that your soul is cared for, because how are you today can become so cliche. No, how is your soul? Is it whole? Is it whole? Or do you have holes in it? Have you been triggered today and you feel depleted? Have you been triggered today and you feel depressed? I want to know. Like some people say, people really don't know how people don't really want to know how you're doing. I do. And so I ask intentional questions. I'll even ask people, how's your health? Not how you doing, but how's your health? Right? And so when you become familiar with you, you won't think to do. You'll just continue. So put yourself on your schedule consistently. Like that's a call to action for you, Angie, is that I want you to make a schedule 2 months, June and July, of putting yourself on your schedule at the top of the day. And then I want you to put yourself on your schedule somewhere else along the way for 2 months. And without any change, I don't want you to change it unless God himself says so. Got it? That's what I want you to do for June and July. Put yourself on your schedule and honor yourself, honor your soul, and begin to fill those holes. And guys, when I say holes, see that as an opportunity and not opposition. I tell my clients that all the time. Listen, when you are notified, when you are triggered, when something shows up to get you off, be excited. I am always excited when something triggers me. You know why? Because that lets me know, oh, you need to fix that. You need to strengthen that. That's an area that needs to be cultivated. And so if the holes are never exposed, there won't be any cultivation. And how is that going to work for you? How is that going to work for you? Good stuff, guys. One more. There's somebody else here that has an aha and they're just holding on. If I saw your name, I would call you out, but I don't see your name. I want you to stand in your brilliance and your boldness and share your aha. I guarantee you, right? I guarantee you that when you share your aha, opportunities will begin to present itself to you to break through in that area at the next dimension. You see, transparency transforms. If you sit in meetings like this and don't say anything unless God himself shares, nobody would know. And so the very thing that you've been waiting for, the very thing that you may not even be sure that you were waiting for, is here ready for you. But you have to participate in your own rescue. One more, guys. Who has an aha or a moment of clarity that needs to be shared? And I love that. Listen, Leanne is going to ask questions for everybody. And so if you don't take your time, she would. She reminds me of myself because I tell God, listen, God, if they don't want their blessings, can I have them? If they just going to sit by the wayside and not take what you've given them, can I have them? And so that's what Leanne does. And she's like, if y'all ain't gonna ask, I'm gonna take your time. And that's what you got to do, guys. Take what belongs to you. God has already predestined your life. In fact, he said that I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. But you have to participate in your own rescue. You got to participate in your own rescue. And so Tanya says, my aha, to see, all caps. I love when you capitalize words. I'm a capitalization girl. And so to see myself doing my new thing, not just think about it, and I'm adding this, but doing it, right? We are doers of the word. That's implementation, because we all can be inspired. We all can be motivated. But if you're not implementing, you'll continue to get what you had, or guess what? Worse. Because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Something is going to manifest. If you don't do anything in this season, you'll get in the next season and have a drought because you didn't do anything in this season. You see, what we do now is preparing us for later. Remember, obligation versus preparation. And so enter into that, Tanya, now by doing it. Like right now, write down seeing yourself doing your new thing. So now go from seeing yourself doing your new thing to doing your new thing and doing it. So it's a 3-part: see, do by writing it down, and then do. Got it? Great stuff, guys. And so check us out, Conversion Personal Development Mastermind. It helps you go from good to great in every area of your life. Begin to do life without any stress, without any strain, and without any struggle. Why? Because you can. Because you can. I love you guys, and I will see you soon. God's peace.